Let's speak to Laurie Laird, who's an economist and US political commentator, about this very subject indeed. Laurie, very good afternoon to you.
James, good afternoon to you. And it is sunny here. Beautiful day.
Isn't it just? It's a beautiful sunny day. Well done, England. Well done, London. Isn't it nice?
Didn't we do well?
And dare I suggest, before we get into any of the meanderings that are going on over the pond, July the 4th, Independence Day, it's a big old do. We kind of don't really celebrate it, what with them having taken the country away from us. But that's okay.
It's a black day for the UK, really.
Yeah, but exactly. It's just like, let's celebrate some more losses. Having said that, Independence Day in the US, what does it consist of, and do you celebrate it here in London?
I don't. A lot of people do. And there's always a big do at Winfield House where the U.S. ambassador lives. And darn it, I've never been invited to that. So I'm pleading. If the
you and me both.
Hear me, can we go next year? Should we work on that? But I did a piece, I think, for TalkTV a couple of years ago on July the 4th. How did I celebrate? And I was actually on my way to Edgbaston to watch the cricket, which was not the answer that the presenter was looking for.
Americans.
So I don't do much for it here.
No, Americans don't get cricket at all. They struggle with soccer or football. No,
favorite.
They don't. They have. Well, it might be your favourite, which is why you're over here. But frankly, I lived over in the States for several years, and they can't make a proper cup of tea. They don't understand cricket, and there's nobody who can explain the offside rule when it comes to football, or as I would say, or they would say soccer.
Well, okay, I'm guilty of number 1 and number 3. But with cricket, I'm pretty good. And did you watch the T20 World Cup? America did brilliantly, although very few of the players were actually in the U.S. But we overtook that a little bit.
No, I didn't watch that. I think I was washing my hair that day. Anyway, let's get tucked into this because
a couple of days.
Listen, I've got so much hair here; it takes an awfully long time to wash, and then I moved on to the dogs and washed them as well.
Fair enough.
Now let's talk though about this. This is a more serious conversation, I have to say. I am very concerned in respect of. I suppose the candidates that you have for your presidential election in the election that's going to take place in November. And one thing I would wish to see is that both of them, regardless of your political views or where you want to vote, I would expect or hope that both of them would be in good health and in good state of mind. And watching that debate, I almost felt as if Donald Trump, he stepped back from really pulling out the attack dogs because I think he felt sorry for Joe Biden, who was unable to string a sentence together and to get his points out, was like almost, slow in his delivery, unable to articulate what he thought. And here is a man who, of course, has been president, a lot of pressures, maybe had jet lag or whatever it was. But at 81, I don't want to be ageist because there are some people who are 81, sharp as a button. He isn't.
No, he isn't. Look, I agree with you. I share your alarm at the downside of both candidates. But let's concentrate on Joe Biden. And look, this narrative is spinning out of control. There's not any other political story today in the U.S. And unlike a lot of the stuff, James, that you and I talk about, a lot of the political stuff, sometimes journalists, we get caught in the minutia, don't we? We get caught in details that people outside of the political area, outside of the Westminster bubble or the U.S. equivalent, outside of the Beltway, people don't care. This one is a kitchen table issue. In fact, more so than Donald Trump's convictions, more so than Donald Trump's legal problems. Joe Biden's competence, Joe Biden's age is something that everyone is talking about. And the longer this story goes on, the more that you can see the president's authority just seeping from him and the fake praise he's getting from erstwhile allies, people like Jim Clyburn in South Carolina, very influential congressman, Jamie Raskin of Maryland, one of the Biden's sidekicks, always on the television defending him. These people are not coming out and saying, this is our man. And that is very concerning.
And when I look at it and when I think about the importance of this, because Americans might think that this is their president and it doesn't have an impact, but actually it does. We've got a position in which a strong America is so important, and that means somebody who is able to communicate effectively across the world and to communicate effectively and to garner respect. Now, I think Joe Biden probably does have an element of respect, because I'm sure he's a nice and a civil man, and he's, and he's done this job for the last few years, and driven through, some very difficult circumstances and won in very difficult circumstances. But that's one thing. I think when it comes to being able to bang the table, to be able to bring people together, to be able to deal with the changing tectonic plates of power, of conflict, of trade, and indeed of, the widening of particular, political gulfs across the world, you need the US to lead that free world, because the free world is in crisis. Now, it's in crisis perhaps because of the creation of exponential wealth, perhaps because of the social problems that exist, and perhaps because of, a range of other matters that people want to turn to. But we have not seen such an uneven and dangerous world for many years. We expect strength. Joe Biden doesn't provide that.
Look, you're absolutely right. The world is a lot scarier a place than it was 4 years ago. And I think people generally think that Joe Biden has led from the front when it comes to Ukraine, has done as much as politically he is able to do to bear pressure on Israel with some of his actions in Gaza. He has had a very strong legislative record, believe it or not. He's got some heavy duty legislation through, more so than any of his predecessors, at least that I can remember. So he's done some things very, very well. But look, as you say, the leader of the free world, part of this is image, right? You have to have confidence in this person. Americans who vote for a president have to have confidence in that person, and people all over the world have to have confidence in this person. This is not happening with Joe Biden at the moment. And the excuses, right? This jet lag. I cannot believe that his team have come out and said he's absolutely fine. He just took 2 European trips. That's nuts. This is part of his job. He wasn't over here at Glastonbury having a good time, right? These are trips he took in the line of duty. And if that's the excuse, I mean, that's an excuse that comes out of, sort of the Conservative Party playbook. It's nuts. And it just is. His image is evaporating.
Who else could take over? Because ultimately, unless it's a big name, I'm assuming that they wouldn't have a cat's chance in hell.
I mean, and this is the question. There's no good option here, but let's do this. I think Joe Biden is going to have to step down. I think that this speculation is not going to go away. So what happens next? Now, the obvious choice, what the protocol would be for Kamala Harris, the vice president, to take the role.
We haven't seen her for 3 years. I only saw her the other day because suddenly, speculated and said, where was she? And they thought that, I don't know, that she might be doing some washing up in a drive-through or something. I mean, I haven't seen her for years.
Doing her hair.
Yeah,
honestly, I forgot what she looked like. I couldn't remember the sound of her voice. Yeah, she's been a little bit more present since the campaign started, and her popularity has gone up a little bit. But until about a month ago, she was less popular than Joe Biden. But look at the optics here. How could you push aside, look at the optics of pushing aside the first woman vice president, the first African-American vice president, Asian-American vice president. Shoving that person aside looks awful. She would have to go willingly. Joe Biden would have to go willingly, and he would have to unite his party behind a successor. And look, Joe Biden doesn't get that much credit for the discipline that he has imposed on the Democratic Party. This is a coalition put together 4 years ago for one reason, and that was to defeat Donald Trump. But there is a range of views in the Democratic Party.
I have to say, sorry to interrupt, but for those of you watching on YouTube or on your connected device, and if you're not, you should do, because it would appear as if our video team have done a fantastic job of stringing together every time Joe Biden has fallen over, fallen off a bike, fallen upstairs, fallen downstairs, anywhere else. Seriously, it's just a litany. I mean, I haven't fallen over that much since I was a toddler. It's just unbelievable.
Since last night.
What are you trying to say?
And Joe Biden does it, just, pre-election night stuff, right? But he does this little jig, doesn't he, when he kind of comes up to a microphone, and it looks like he's trying to show how sort of vibrant he is, and it just makes everything worse. And unfortunately, your video teams are going to have, I think, more opportunity to do these things, to string together these little mishaps. Now, Joe Biden is talking to the Democratic Party is saying, look, you got to get out there, right? You've got to campaign. You've got to show yourself to be vibrant, to be energetic. And he has looked a little bit better on the campaign trail recently, but everyone's noticed he's reading from an auto cue and he's not taking reporters' questions. And that is something that is being reported quite widely. He's sitting down with an interviewer called George Stephanopoulos on ABC News Tomorrow. Now, remember, Stephanopoulos, he was Bill Clinton's press secretary, Obama's. He was a press secretary in a Democratic administration. It's not going to be all that rigorous an interview, but Democratic operatives are saying, this is your last chance, Joe. You got to get this one right. But I don't think it's going to be all that rigorous.
I don't think it is, Laurie Laird. Thank you very much indeed. Happy 4th of July to you. And thank you very much indeed for joining us here on Talk. Laurie is an economist and a US political commentator. Thank you so much. Now